So let me start by saying, since 2015, the establishment anti-Trump wing of the Republican Party and the entire Democratic Party and the media, while the media has occasionally dabbled with fascination with Trump, has tried to rid the political system of Donald Trump. And they have repeatedly, Charlie Brown and the football, said, this is it. This is the moment where Trump goes down. This is a moment where the country says this person can't possibly be president. He's vulgar. He's racist. He's dangerous. He has no business being in the Oval Office. And anyone who's paid attention has seen that happen over and over again. And there have been times when those things have certainly hurt him. And you hear on this platform all the time, people say they're voting for Trump, but they wish he would shut up, or they wish he would not be so negative or divisive. This time might be different. And I've never said that in the nearly 10 years Donald Trump has been dominating our national conversation. I've always been skeptical. I've always thought that there's a distorted narrative that comes out of the fact that the press doesn't like him, and the press loves to listen to the Adam Schiff view of the world that says this is it. This is when the country turns on Donald Trump. What's different now is a few things. Number one, and again, a lot of this grows out of his event today, but it was true even before his event today. Running against Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden twice is different than running against this version of Kamala Harris. This version of Kamala Harris, if you're honest, even if you're a Republican, is significantly more formidable than Hillary Clinton was in 2016 and Joe Biden was in 2024. Not that they didn't have strengths. They both ran close races, one lost, but they had tons of vulnerabilities. And they had, particularly Hillary Clinton in 16 and Biden in 24, they often did not have the press on their side. The negative narratives, thanks to Jim Comey and others, but also thanks to Hillary Clinton and her reputation with the relationship with the press, and in some cases sexism. She had a lot of bad days. Kamala Harris has not had a single bad day since she took de facto took the nomination. And this is a really short campaign. And that's the other big difference. Kamala Harris can run the table here and not have a bad day for 90 days, I believe, in part because the press is rooting for her. And in part because the forces in both parties and in the media that have wanted to stop Donald Trump can now see the project. They can now see what Vice President Harris needs to do, what they need to do to stop Donald Trump. And partly what's fueling the confidence and the determination and the focus is Donald Trump, since the switch from Biden to Harris, has not been running a very good campaign. Now, some of that's overblown. Some of the criticism of his team, I think, is a little bit overblown, but even Republicans will say they were caught flat-footed, that they still don't really have a theory of the case about how they're going to slow her down. They're not panicking, but there's deep concern in Trump circles about trying to figure this out. Now, I want to show you something that Nate Silver tweeted. Nate Silver, I find useful often to be kind of the embodiment of the spirit of the anti-Trump forces in America. And what he said is, see it there, every poker player is seen as a player who has a huge stack and is coasting to lock up a big night, but then loses a big pot, goes on tilt, and never regains his form. And some of Trump's latest moves remind me of that. This was before the NABJ event. And what that tweet represents is this view that, sure, Trump had a great run legally, politically, with Biden fading in the debate. Trump had a great run and was in a masterful position. But since Kamala Harris became the de facto nominee, that he's showing that he's a loser. He's showing that he's weak. He's showing that his capacity to win this election is minimal. And that sentiment is infusing. Go watch an hour, as I did it right before I joined you. I watched the top of the 4 o'clock at MSNBC and CNN. It is infusing the sensibility, and it will infuse the so-called straight news coverage in the major papers today and every day when they can say this about Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump's event, interviewed by 3 journalists on stage in Chicago. I'd never heard him once say Kamala Harris was an San Francisco extremist. I never heard him once talk about, I didn't hear him talk with a focus on inflation and immigration. I didn't hear him talk about her role in the administration. What I heard him say, and what's going to get all the attention, is some stuff that is classic Trump. Now, maybe there's some method to the madness, and this is going to help him win the election, because once again, the dog whistle is going to be louder than what's going to be printed in the New York Times tomorrow. But I want to show you the soundbite that's getting the most attention, and you can make of it what you will and say it's not as negative for Americans as the rate of inflation under Biden-Harris, but I guarantee you that it costs them the news cycle and probably more. Go ahead and play it, please.
A little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much, and she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always identified as a black woman. She went to a historically black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do you believe that
I think somebody should look into that too when you ask continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct question, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, as some Republicans
really don't
have
know.
said?
I mean, I really don't know. Could be. There are some, and there are plenty. I know this lady right over there, Harris, is a fantastic person who just interviewed me at length. And we had a great interview, I think, and I heard you got very good ratings on that.
Well,
interview.
you told me it was the longest one of your life, so we had a good discussion.
Okay. All right. We can drop out of that.
Here today.
So is that as offensive as saying Barack Obama was not born in the United States and is illegitimate? Is it as offensive as some of the things he said about Secretary Clinton? It's not, I don't think, but it's offensive to people, and it's not on message. And it is, if I may use the word, weird. And it is going to get the confidence of Blue America and the dominant media to say, this guy's lost his mind, he's scrambling. It was already denounced from the White House podium using extraordinarily strong words, which I had in front of me. Let me see if I can find them again. And I think what you're going to see is, let me just get it up here. The White House said, the White House press secretary called those comments repulsive and insulting. Okay, so I think what you're going to see now is a round of polling, which we've already seen some of, that shows Vice President Harris doing very well. You're going to continue to see her doing strong events because they're very managed, and the team in place, amongst the many things that she's benefiting from by being the nominee as opposed to anyone else after Joe Biden stepped aside, is she's got an advanced team that knows how to do presidential and vice presidential level events. Had someone else come in and tried to build a presidential campaign, it just wouldn't have been possible. She's staging, as she did yesterday in Atlanta, very strong events. She's not doing interviews yet. She's not doing press conferences yet. I'm not predicting she'll win, and I'm not cheering for her to win. But what I'm telling you is that performance by Donald Trump today will provide another news cycle where that Nate Silver sensibility will be dominant in the media and be dominant in Democratic circles that says, this guy is losing, and therefore he's losing his mind. Now, as I said, this has been predicted many times before. What's different is the vice president is performing at a formidable level, and it's a 90-day sprint. And in a 90-day sprint, if she is as good as this, then what kicks in was always been the case, which is what people said, a normal Democrat will be Donald Trump. What won't be Donald Trump is Hillary Clinton and Jim Comey, or Joe Biden, because of his record on inflation, immigration, and Israel, and because of this infirmity, what I've called the four eyes. Kamala Harris now is not just a replacement for Joe Biden, and she's not just someone with some of his baggage and some of her own baggage, but not the infirmity. Right now, she's a really good presidential candidate. She's smiling, she's happy, she's loose. She's dealt with the Israel situation with statements that have been effective. And the press is not clamoring for access or information. At the White House briefing, they asked about her health records. There's, people are complaining she's not super accessible. What I hear from Republicans, including serious people, what about the coup? What did she know about Joe Biden's acuity level? Process. Bobby Kennedy did a press call today with a lot of reporters on it. He talked about process too, how hard it is to get on the ballot, etc. Process is not going to stop this freight train, I don't believe. And challenging her on race is not going to stop the freight train. But that's what he did in a very high profile moment.